Hi Hannah. I am just writing your feedback email. I thought I'd do it via this screencasting so that I can give you some more feedback. So here's what I'm going to do. First thing, I'm going to post your scoring, which is here. Oh, that's weird. I can't make it bold. That's fine. I'll do it later. So here's your scoring. Novice. And all of these, the way I've scored it is the N is the level of trick, the 1 is the points that you earned, and then if I do have any notes, then I will put them in brackets next to it. So novice, you scored 25 out of 15, which is a pass. Intermediate, 13 out of 12, which is a pass, easy pass. And advanced 7 out of 5. So again, easy pass, really nice. So that's the breakdown of the scoring. I'm going to neaten up the formatting of this later. In terms of feedback videos, actually, you know what? I'll put those in the start so it doesn't look super confusing. So feedback videos. I have made a YouTube playlist with all of these on it. And you know what? I'll put that in a moment so you can look at those and go through the feedback. I'm also going to put some feedback notes. So in here, as I was going through your videos, I did take notes. So here are my notes. So just to recap again, I really liked your recall cue. It was really nice and clear. I'm actually going to put this in overall feedback. So separation of cues. So overall feedback, cue separation. We talked a little bit about that before. Feedback for the 2 on 2 off video. It's okay, that trick's really weird. Balance on a small platform. Oh yeah, so this is actually the novice version of the intermediate trick, so that was good. Really nice middle finish. I'm going to expand on some of this stuff just in text, but that was the nice turn into the finish. That looked really, really good. Ring a bell is actually an advanced trick. So it is. You got 2 points for that. Making things harder than they need to be, and I love it. Overachiever. So your play dad, your sit pretty, and your shake are great. So those are actually more than novice tricks, which is good. Play dad, I'm going to put this under your advanced feedback because it was your advanced trick. So intermediate, you had your directional casting that was not quite the right setup, so you would need 3 chairs. Extra challenges for your middle position if you wanted to. I mean, you're nailing this, so you don't have to, but just if you want some challenges. And again, talking about cues being more subtle, I think I might put that in overall feedback as well. So subtle cues. That is not how you spell subtle. And then advanced feedback. Your play dad is basically amazing. You could have that under 1 cue. That's an expert trick, so really good. So my overall feedback, I want to, and this is why I made the recording really, I just want to go over the cue separation, the subtle cues, and also the event marker. And I'm going to flesh this out with some more text after the video, but just to talk about these things individually. So cue separation is so that we can determine what your dog is responding to in terms of cues. If we only use our voice or if we only use our hand signal, then we can determine which one of those our dog is more strong on. And if there is a weakness in the other one, then we can work on that. So I do think it's important that when you cue your dog, just use 1 cue, and then that way we really know which one our dog is responding to, and then mix it up from time to time. So sometimes use the verbal cue, sometimes use the hand cue. Subtle cues, this is all about making some of those tricks look a little bit more fancy. So your subtle cues for your figure eights was really nice. That weight shift going one way and then the other, which was cueing Fisher to go around your body. That's exactly what I'm talking about. We can do that with so many of your tricks. Roll over, we can work on getting that hand just a little bit higher from the ground so that you can cue her without getting really low yourself. We can work on that head rest. Again, getting your hand a little bit lower or a little bit higher off the ground. With the chin rest, I think what may happen is you might have trouble adding distance to that as she tries to place her chin on your fingers. So by having a more subtle cue, like a verbal cue, for example, chin down, you can then start adding distance to that more easily. So subtle cues, as I said, I'm just going to expand on this, but I think those are really not essential for trick training. Like this, as I said, you passed with flying colors. These are not criticisms. These are challenges to work on in the future if you wanna find some new stuff to do. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is your event marker. So this is some overall feedback I had through seeing all of your videos. And what it is you have two major event markers, and I couldn't really determine the pattern in their use. So your event marker is your clicker or a verbal marker such as the word yes. So these things tell Fisher you did the right thing, well done. Now you get your treat, or now we do the next thing. So what I noticed first of all is that you use the clicker and you use yes interchangeably, and this is fine for sort of intermediate or advanced level training. But if you want to get into the really high level training, I recommend using those event markers for different reasons. So giving them each its own unique purpose rather than using them interchangeably. My training style, what I do is I use my clicker as my teaching tool. So my clicker is always followed by a treat, which means 100% of the time when I click, there is a treat right afterwards. And I do that because I want to set the expectation for my dog really strongly that the click means a treat. So this means that when I'm teaching a brand new behavior, that click is really reinforcing and it's going to really drive my dog to learn the next step and the next step and the next step in the behavior. That click is really strong. What I use yes for is what you're currently using the clicker for. So it's basically yes means sometimes you get a treat and sometimes you don't. Sometimes we're just going to do something else instead. So that's what you're currently using your event markers for. And there's nothing wrong with that. I would kind of have a strong one that gets treated all the time, and then like a medium strength one, which you get treats sometimes, you get treats. You don't always get treats. So for me, click is 100% of the time. Yes is like 50% of the time you get treats. And then the next thing I want to talk about in terms of event marker is behavior chaining. So when we have a chain of behaviors, such as doing multiple leg weaves in a row, we don't actually need the event marker there. And it's really, really cool and it's really interesting, and I could really get nerdy about this, but I'm going to give you the blurb version, and that is this. When we give our dog a cue and they do it right, instead of giving them an event marker, we give them another cue. So that next cue acts as a reinforcer for the last cue. And then we give them another cue when they complete that behavior, which reinforces the last cue. And then eventually we give them yes, which means here's your treat. So by having a chain all the way along that's backed by one single event marker, yes, it means that our cues themselves become event markers and they become valuable. So this is where we get to performing really long routines like dog dancing or dog agility or what have you without having to click for every single behavior. And it's super, super nice because it actually makes the word that you're saying or the body cue that you're doing reinforcing to your dog. I am going to attach a video here of Emily Larlam, aka Kiko Pup, explaining this because she explains it really nicely, and her dog in the video, you can really clearly see how reinforcing each individual cue is. So I do it with Percy, but this video is probably better than one that I could record myself, so that's why I'm going to include it. So those are my overall feedback. I think if you really want to take your training to the next level, work on cue separation, work on more subtle cues and give yourself more room with your event markers. Use them for specific purposes, and then that way they're different tools that you can use for different effects. And you can always have more event markers. There's nothing wrong with inventing new ones. I actually have probably about 4. So I have my click, which is 100% treats. Click, here's a treat. I have yes, which means yes, that was the right thing. Sometimes you get a treat. I have good, which means you get a treat. I'm going to throw it on the ground. So good is useful for teaching stand, for example, where he's not going to collect it off my hand. He's going to collect it from further behind him. So I think I mentioned that in one of my other videos. It's also good for teaching things like rebound, because you want in rebound your dog bounces off your body and then starts moving away from you. So having an event marker where your treat is determined not to be coming from your body, it's coming from the floor somewhere, that it sets your dog up not to turn around to face you. So that's another example of where you might use a different event marker for a different purpose. So just a case of expanding on the tools that you already have and finding new ways of making your training even smoother. But as I say, throughout this whole process, judging your videos, your training looks really solid. Fisher has a really clear understanding of her task, which shows me that your initial training is very clean and very well understood by her. And yeah, so overall, I think you did an absolutely fantastic job, and it was a real pleasure watching your videos. So thanks very much for submitting. I have just processed your trick titles, so they are in the works. I'll update you when their status is set to complete, but at this point it will happen. So I'll send you the link for checking out the trick titles holder list so that you can see them, and you should get your titles within about 10 days. If you don't, it's probably to do with COVID. But if you don't get your titles within 10 days, please message me so I can follow up, do more with your dog headquarters and find out what's going on. So yeah, thanks very much. See you later.